AI is everywhere, right? It promises to change everything. But what happens when you plug it into the high-stakes world of law? A world where one tiny mistake can have massive consequences? A whole new generation of legal AI says they've cracked the code, but how reliable are they, really? Let's dig into the first ever independent audit of these incredibly powerful tools.
So let's kick things off with a story that honestly sent a chill down the spine of the entire legal community. In 2023, a lawyer used a standard chatbot, just like you or I might, and ended up submitting a legal brief that cited 6 cases that were completely made up, just invented out of thin air. It was this huge, flashing warning sign about the dangers of AI hallucinations, when the technology just confidently makes things up.
And look, this wasn't just some abstract problem that tech nerds were worried about. It got the attention of the big guns. In his official year-end report, Chief Justice John Roberts himself called out hallucinations as a major hurdle for AI in the legal world. The stakes were officially set.
So with this crisis of confidence brewing, who steps into the ring? Well, the biggest names in legal technology, of course. And they didn't just say, yeah, it's a problem. They claimed they had solved it, rolling out specialized AI tools with what sounded like the perfect fix.
LexisNexis, a total giant in the industry, came out with this incredibly bold promise. Not just better, not just improved, but 100% hallucination-free. That's a promise of complete, total reliability. And, their biggest rival, Thomson Reuters, wasn't just going to sit on the sidelines. They made a very similar promise for their Westlaw tools. Their pitch was, hey, we can avoid these problems because we're grounding our AI in our own huge, trusted library of legal documents. The message from both of them was crystal clear. Our special tools won't make the same mistakes.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, how were they supposedly pulling this off? Well, the secret sauce was a technology called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. Think of it like this. A normal chatbot is taking a closed book exam, just relying on its memory. But with RAG, the AI gets an open book exam. Before it answers, it searches through a private, trusted database and can only use those documents to write its answer. On paper, it sounds like the perfect solution.
But here's the thing about big marketing promises. You gotta check the receipts, right? These AI systems are like black boxes. They're proprietary. You can't just pop the hood and see how they work. So how could anyone know if this RAG technology was really as foolproof as they claimed?
And that's where a team of researchers from Stanford and Yale comes in. They decided to do what no one had done before, the first ever independent audit. They put together a list of over 200 real legal questions and basically put these new fancy AI tools from Lexis and Westlaw to the test, even comparing them against good old GPT-4 to see the difference.
All right, so this is the moment of truth. With a promise of 100% accuracy on the line, how did these advanced, specialized, hallucination-free AIs actually do when the rubber met the road?
Let's get to the results. And, well, let's just say the reality was a lot more sobering than the promises. The numbers tell a story that's way more complicated and honestly a bit more concerning than you'd think from the marketing.
And this chart just lays it all out there plain and simple. So yeah, the specialized legal tools did do better than the general-purpose GPT-4. That's good. But hallucination-free? Not even close. Lexis Plus AI hallucinated 17% of the time. In Westlaw's tool, it hallucinated in a third of its responses. A full third.
Let's just pause on that for a second. 17%. That means even the best one on the market, the one that promised 100% accuracy, was still giving you false or misleading information in almost 1 out of every 6 times you used it.
And for Westlaw's tool, it was even worse. A 1 in 3 chance of getting a hallucinated answer. I mean, this isn't some rare, occasional glitch. It was a consistent and really significant problem.
So it all comes down to this, doesn't it? On one side, you have the promise, 100% hallucination-free. And on the other, you have the hard data, a 17 to 33% failure rate. It turns out this problem is just much, much harder to solve than the marketers wanted us to believe.
Okay, but here's where it gets really fascinating and frankly a bit scary. It's not just that they get things wrong, it's how they get things wrong. The mistakes weren't always as obvious as just inventing a fake case. The study found these advanced AIs were making much more subtle, and you could argue more dangerous kinds of errors.
So if these AIs are looking at real legal documents, how on earth are they still messing up so badly? Well, the researchers found that the hallucinations are often super sneaky, twisting real information in ways that are incredibly difficult for a person to spot unless they're already an expert.
I mean, just look at this. This is a jaw-dropping, real example from the study. Westlaw's AI claimed a state Supreme Court in Nebraska reversed a U.S. Supreme Court decision. Anyone who's taken a basic civics class knows well, it's legally impossible. It's like saying a city council overruled a federal law. It just doesn't compute. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the entire legal system works.
And that wasn't a one-off thing. They found all sorts of these tricky errors. The AI would say a case meant the exact opposite of what it actually ruled, or it would get confused and report what a lawyer argued in court as if it were the judge's final decision. It would even cite real cases that look good on the surface, but had actually been overturned years ago. These are mistakes that are so easy to miss if you're not careful.
Here's another perfect example. An AI tool pulls up a real Supreme Court case, looks totally legit, and says it supports a certain legal rule. The problem? When you actually read the case, the court decided the complete opposite. Just think about building a legal argument on that foundation. It's a house of cards. Absolutely disastrous.
So, where does that leave us? What's the final verdict on legal AI? Does this bombshell study mean we should just throw the whole thing out? Well, no, not exactly. But it definitely changes the game. It radically redefines the role of these tools.
The big conclusion here isn't that these AI tools are useless. It's that we have to be brutally honest about what they are. They're not all-knowing, infallible oracles you can just blindly trust. They are incredibly powerful, but very flawed assistants. And you know what that means? The judgment and the expertise of a human lawyer isn't just nice to have, it's more critical than ever before.
So this research gives us a really clear, evidence-based roadmap. First, verify everything. You have to treat AI output like a rough first draft from an intern, not the final answer. Second, the professional duty of being a competent lawyer now officially includes being competent at supervising your AI tools. And third, and this is the big one, remember that the buck always stops with the human. The lawyer is responsible for what they file, not the algorithm.
And that leaves us with this final thought. The technology has given us an unbelievably powerful new assistant, one that can do research faster than any person ever could. But this study makes one thing crystal clear. The line between a helpful tool and a trusted professional, well, that line is still very, very bright. For now, the role of the lawyer remains firmly in human hands.